But thanks for coming. Body language is really important, and I want to help you guys because you're at a point in your career where you really need to learn some things about this. So let's get started, and let's think about what you're doing now. So, I'm going to make you a little bit paranoid, maybe just a little. Look at what you're doing with your body. Think about it. I mean, I know you're eating, but you may be a little bit folded up, or you may be pretty relaxed and spread out, because what you're doing with your body is communicating something to me, and what I'm doing with my body is communicating something to you. So we'll get into all of this stuff, but I just wanted you to kind of get a base thought on where you were when we started so you could think about that later. And what I'd like you to do now, if you don't mind, I know again you're trying to eat, but if you could stand up, I'm gonna kind of walk through what your base posture position should be, okay? So if you stand up and you place your feet about hip width apart, okay? Pull your shoulders back, okay? You want people to know you're confident, and then reach up as tall as you can, all right? And then just kind of put your arms back down and hold that. That is your base good posture position. So as you're trying to build rapport with people and confidence, remember that and try to be in that position. It gets more comfortable over time if it's not real comfortable now. So you can sit back down and eat. So a lot of people don't know that body language is really 93% of what we do. We think that we're communicating with our words, but our words are 7%. Now, our body language overall, which can be facial expression, movement, all of that, is about 55%, but about 38% deals with your voice. So we've all heard those loud talkers that talk in airports like this, and they seem so important. And then you hear those people they're kind of like this, and you make snap judgments about people based on what they're doing with their voice. Some people talk really fast. Some people talk a little slow. And again, people are going to make judgments about you based on those things. So your words are 7% of your communication. Here's a couple interesting facts that are important for veterinarians in particular. So the first one has to do with doctors. And people watched 30-second clips that were soundless of patient and doctor interactions. And based on their judgments of the physician's niceness, it depended on whether they would sue that individual. So you guys don't get sued often, but you do get complaints with the Board of Veterinary Medicine. And so you need to make sure that when you're communicating with clients, when you're out there, that you're building good rapport and that they're viewing you as a nice and caring individual. There was also a study at Princeton that showed that in just 1 second, it predicted 70% of the Senate and gubernatorial race outcomes. So, as the elections are upon us, those really quick clips of people really matter. And I apologize for my slides. For some reason on here, they're not quite coming up right, but we'll adjust. So there's a lot to body language. There's kinesics, which is your movement. There is haptics, which is touch. There's proxemics, and normally if there's somebody up front, I get right up in their space, but there's nobody super close. And in fact, I did this presentation in Oregon over the weekend, and I got so close to this guy, I crushed his foot. And I said, "How's that feel?" And he said, "It really hurts." So paralinguistics is that tone of voice that I mentioned. Posture, really, really important. Gestures, small gestures, good. Wild gestures, not so much. Facial expression, I think you guys are pretty good at, so we won't really focus on that. But then eye contact and eye movement is also important. So here's what I'm hoping you'll leave with. I want you to leave with some skills, and I've got a tip sheet you can leave with as well. So I want you to be able to build rapport and trust. I want you to be able to show more confidence and build credibility. Interviewing, we're going to talk about interviewing and handling meetings. Telling when someone's lying. I want you to be able to intimidate people and annoy people if you want to, just saying. And then kind of read your family and your clients and your friends and your coworkers. So let's first talk about meeting people. Meeting people is the first thing you do. Every client that walks into your office, you're going to be meeting and you're going to have to build that rapport. So the first thing we do in our culture is we reach out and we shake hands. So I would really like it if you guys would just shake hands with someone, just for a second. There you go. I always lose people a little bit here because you guys are really social, and that's good. So when you went in for that handshake, did you go in straight and flat with about equal pressure? Because that's what you want to do in our culture. Straight and flat, equal pressure. Now, have you ever shaken hands with somebody? It happens to me with politicians a lot, where they will grab your hand and just turn it over. They're trying to dominate you. It's really, and they squeeze really hard. It's really annoying. So that's something you don't want to do, and you don't really want to be on the submissive end of that either. Now, sometimes you can't help it, but go in flat, go in straight, make eye contact, and smile. Smiling is really, really important, and we'll talk more about eye contact. Things that you generally don't want to do is kind of the double-handed thing. Now, a lot of people go in with their hand and then they'll give this warm little second hand thing. And if it's your grandmother's best friend, awesome, give her a hug, whatever. But if it's someone, like a client, not so much. And you can use touch if you touch only to the elbow, but anything beyond that, not so great. Generally speaking, no touching, no two-handedness. If you want to build some rapport, mirroring is a really good idea. So you see it with politicians again. I pick on them a lot in this, I'm sorry, but seriously, really? So they do a lot of mirroring to build this rapport, and it works well. But in your personal life, you can build rapport too. I mean, you notice, like, if you go to the bar with your girlfriend, and you sit at the bar, and you're gonna sit like this, and you're gonna fold your leg towards them and put your arm on the bar, and you're chatting, you're just having a good time. And she's gonna be like this with her leg like this. You're mirroring. And it's just one of those things where you have a private conversation going on and you build rapport by doing that. When you sit at a table with someone, have you ever noticed that when you're eating, you lean in and the other person leans in? Or if you lean back, the other person leans back. Or if you've got your shades with you and you put them on and the other person's got their shades, they put them on. So it's just interesting, but it does build rapport. And if you want to annoy people at a table, sit things in their space, because when you sit at a table, it's sort of like there's a line in the middle that nobody knows about. So you can salt your food and then stick the salt shaker on their side. Then you can pepper your food and stick it on the side. Anyway, if you want to mess with people, I kind of enjoy messing with people, so we'll leave it at that. Building rapport with the eyes. I mentioned the eyes before, and when you meet people, you definitely want to hold that eye contact for at least 3 seconds. And generally, the first person to look away is the submissive. So if you are with a client, for example, and you want to be viewed as a bit more dominant, and you do want that, because sometimes clients, your young veterinarians, when you come out, you want them to know, hey, I got this. So, you reach out, you shake their hand, you hold their eyes, and you wait for them to look away, and you're smiling, and you're just fabulous. In our culture, we typically look in the eyes about 60 to 70% of the time. That's normal. Now, if you're going to stare at them more than that, they're going to eventually go, oh my God, you're creeping me out a little bit. Less than that, they're not going to trust you. So try to keep that in mind, and that varies by culture too. And when you're meeting people, what I've found is if you repeat their name 4 times, you're much more likely to remember it. So, hello, Jane Smith, how are you? What's going on with your dog? So Jane, tell me about the symptoms you're experiencing. Let me tell you a little bit about what we can do, Jane. And then, it was really nice meeting you, Jane. We're gonna help you out with your dog. If you can do it 4 times, that'll help you remember. And people, there's nothing better to people than hearing their name over and over again. Within reason, right? Gazing. Now, you guys don't realize you do this, but what we do is we look at people in triangles. So we'll look at the two eyes and we'll look either up or down. Now, power gazing, if you want to gain a little bit more control of a situation, you're going to want to look up to the forehead, okay, consciously, because when you look down, it is more of a social gaze. And, you know, people will look back and forth, and then if they look down to about here, that's what you kind of do with your close friends and family. And so in a situation where you're trying to gain, you know, a little bit of power, you got to be cognizant of where your eyes are going. And I don't mean that in a weird way. Hand gestures. So hand gestures, I think, are really powerful. You see me up here and I'm just gesturing away, but you know, it's body language. I got to do it. So there was a study done, and I think it was at Harvard, and they had a professor come in, and he had 3 different audiences come in. And the first audience, he gave his presentation, and when he was done, he said, I'd like the people on the left to move to the right, and I'd like the people on the right to move to the left, and stand up and go. And 82% of them moved. So they brought in the second audience. And with that audience, he said, I'd like the people on the right to move to the left, and I'd like the people on the left to move to the right. And only a little over 50% of them moved. Difference between this and this. So the third audience comes in, does the presentation. At the end, he says, I'd like you to stand. I'd like the people on the right to move to the left, and the people on the left to move to the right. Only 28% of them moved. Pointing is bad. So with that in mind, this open gesture, which builds trust, and it's more likely to get people to be honest with you, it's called the give. Now, sometimes people will match their gestures and their movements, which they call the show. So you might say, oh, Mrs. Smith, I'm so sorry about your dog. My heart goes out to you. So that is a powerful gesture as well. Now, again, politicians, they do a lot of this chop thing because they're trying to make a point. And we all do it sometimes, but it might be a single chop. You know, maybe it's not that big of a point, but if it's a really serious point, you got a lot of chopping going on. So be cognizant of that. You don't want to over chop. If you want people to think you're more confident, which you should be confident, you're awesome, you guys are going to be phenomenal vets, it was hard work to get in here, you're working your butts off in school, you're awesome. So if you want to build some additional confidence, again, I'm not sure why my slides are weird, but I'm really sorry about that. So steepling. You know, I know Donald Trump does it, which makes you not want to do it probably. But, you know, you can do a little bit of this. You can do kind of a modified steeple. A little bit of steepling goes a long way, though. So, you know, if you need to steeple, do a little steepling, but don't over steeple. Pinching. You know, I would go places and I would talk to people and I'd be like, talking like this. And I finally looked it up. I'm like, what is this? Why am I doing this? I want you to grasp the concept. So, you know, it was one of those little body language things that I didn't know until I looked it up. Holding hands behind your back, that usually means you're holding back a little bit. You see people speak tall kind of thing. But if you're holding your hands back and you're kind of doing this kind of thing, wrist, arm clasp here, usually you're holding back from saying something. And people do that in front too. They'll kind of be like this. And I know I do that when I do DISC behavioral differences presentations because I put people into groups and they're all talking and I want to play too, and so I'll just hold my wrist back here. And that works well. Now in your classes, do you go like this or do you go like this when you raise your hand? Don't do that. Don't do that. It's just, no. Just go for it. Seriously, show some confidence. Does anybody ever Wonder Woman? So there's a lot of good power poses out there that really help you to be a little bit more dominant. And women in particular tend to be small. So, you know, and you guys know you do it. I do it too. You know, you just kind of fold up. You're looking at your phone. There's no power in that. None. So, you know, you need to take up some space, have good posture, and by God, Wonder Woman every once in a while. Look at Beyonce. She does it all the time. So there is this awesome professor at Harvard, and she teaches in the MBA program, and her name is Amy Cuddy. Maybe you guys have seen her TED Talk, maybe not. But she works with her students a lot in body language, and she talks to them about, okay, how can we make our lives better through body language? And she talks about high and lower pose, and I'm going to make you kind of do something again. So this top row is high power poses. You know, you've got your Wonder Woman. There's always like this kind of thing. There's this, and put your feet up. Whatever you do, but I would like you to do a power pose for just a few seconds and see how that feels. Make yourself big. Make yourself dominant. Make yourself confident. Strike a pose. All right. So now, this bottom row is all low power poses. So what I'd like you to do is do a low power pose. You know, kind of fold yourself up. You know, this one in particular is a really low power pose with the neck thing going. So, you know, and so fold yourself up and see how that feels compared to when you were kind of all open. It feels pretty different. And animals do this. Animals do this, you guys. I mean, the dominant animals, they make themselves big. You know, the submissive ones, they kind of fold up. So I have this turkey story. So like a couple days ago, my mother-in-law is at this elder care facility, and she's in this room, and next door they have a bird feeder, and there's a little pond out there, and they get deer, and they get turkey, and they get geese, and all this stuff. And there were 5 giant turkeys outside the window, and they're eating all the birds. And I'm watching because I'm actually like 10 feet from the turkeys, but I'm inside, and you know, that never happens, so I'm interested. So pretty soon I see all these little bitty birds, and they're like approaching, and the turkeys are like, no. You know, and I felt really sorry for the birds. They keep creeping up, they fly over top and sit on the roof, and the turkeys are just like, no. And I thought, well, now that's just rude. So when I left, I was with my husband and my son, who already think I'm a little nuts, and so it's all fine. But I said, I'm gonna go see these turkeys. They're like, really? Because I think they outweigh you. You know, there's 5 of them, and they're really big, and I'm like, no, it'll be fine. So, you know, I'm walking up to the turkeys, and I'm just wondering what's gonna, because I want the little birds to get some too. So pretty soon, like 2 of them left. I'm okay, 3-1 now, we're good. So I take a couple steps forward, and pretty soon, you know, I got their feathers up, and I'm going, oh, well, let me think about this. And so I kept walking, and 2 more left. But there was 1 left, and he did the head waggle. He's like, oh, no, you don't. This is my bird seed. You are not coming up here. So I looked at him, and I said, yes, I am. I'm going over there. So he did his big, like, feather thing, you know. So I looked at him, and I went, and he left. And I was like, come, little birds. And the happy ending to all, right? So, yeah, and my 23-year-old is like, oh, Mom, do you know that all those people in the nursing home are watching you out the window? Anyway, so, and when people, you know, do great things, and again, politicians, they do a lot of power posing and pride, and, you know, this woman here, you know, she's got her Wonder Woman going. And the man is like, oh, no, I'm just going to protect myself. This is called the fig leaf, and never ever gesture from the fig leaf. Not a good look. This guy, you know, the runner, this whole like V with the head tilted back, kind of a universal expression of pride. They found that even blind people do that. It's just sort of ingrained in us. Let's talk about the eyes a little bit, because the eyes say a lot. So, if you make strong eye contact, that is a really good thing. And you can even take it a little bit farther, as long as you're not out in the sunshine, and look at people's pupils. If they're expanded and kind of open, they usually like what you're saying. If they're constricted, they can be challenging you. Now, the sideways glance is kind of evil, unless the eyebrows are up. So if you see a sideways glance, if the eyebrows are up, it's playful. they like you. If the eyebrows are down, run. The most threatening look is with the eyebrows down and they move the eyes to the side and then they follow it with a head look. Oh, they're gonna kill somebody. So like the top girl here, she's kind of looking up and her eyebrows are up. So she's kind of playful, she's happy. The Rock, of course, one eyebrow counts because he's The Rock. And so he's kind of playful, but this guy, ooh, yeah, no. And this girl, oh, she's gonna do something. She's gonna do something to that girl. She hates that girl. So how do we tell when people are lying? Because this is really handy. You know, a client might come in and they're like, oh, my dog just got this yesterday. And you're thinking, no, your dog's had that for 2 weeks. So what police do is they look for baseline behaviors. They will bring a person in for questioning and they will say, all right, you know, state your name, tell me your address, what is your birthday? Questions where they can watch the person's behavior and get a feel for that. And then they'll get into the hard stuff. Where were you the night of October 31st at midnight? You know, and they'll watch for different things to change. And usually they do if the person is lying. So liars are really good at eye contact, but then when you watch their eyes and you ask them hard questions, they'll blink a lot and their eyes will dart around a lot. So you can watch for that. The other thing that police will watch for is where the eyes go. And this is a tricky chart, but I have this in a handout for you so that you can study it and really find out who's lying to you. So this is a right-handed person, okay? And it's backwards if it's a left-handed person. This is a person looking at you here. So if you're looking at somebody and they look up and to the right, they're visually remembering. So they might be remembering the house they grew up in. If they're looking to the left and right, they're remembering words. If they're looking down and right, they are going through their like list of to-dos. Something like that. Now, if they were looking up and left, they're visually fabricating. Could be the murder scene, you know, a picture in their head. But if they're looking left and straight, then fabricating, and then down and left is recalling feelings. So if you look at like the top picture here, she's looking down and right. So she's kind of doing this talk to myself thing. Oh gosh, I've got to study for this. I've got to do that. The blonde here, looking left, she's making up words. The gentleman in the center, looking up and right, he's remembering his first pet. And the woman, the last woman there, looking up and left, she's visually fabricating things. So keep that in mind. So law enforcement, they look for people looking up and left, and up or straight and left. And they also ask them on the base questions, are you right-handed or left-handed? If people are lying, they will usually touch their mouth or their face. And it's almost like their body wants to say, all right, we don't want you to say that because you're lying, you know? And they'll kind of do this thing, you know, touch their nose, this kind of thing. So watch for that. Those are giveaways. And hands also tell a lot. So if you keep an eye out for people's hands, if hands are clenched, you know, if you look at me now, you see me doing that and you know I'm uncomfortable. I'm holding something back. I'm upset maybe. So watch holding something back there. It's also done in front. Head on hands if you really want to win people over. I mean, you know, kind of do this. Like, oh, I'm so interested in what you have to say. I know, it's cheesy, but it works. Picking imaginary lint usually means you have a secret opinion or you've been around a lot of dog hair in your case. So that one doesn't work as well for you guys. But folding hands in front too. I know I have a lot of meetings. I have a lot of committees. I have a lot of task forces. And when I go in there, they have a lot of great ideas and they want me to do them all. So, you know, I tend to sit in meetings and I'm like this, kind of a cross between protecting myself and feeling vulnerable. So we'll leave it at that. Who wants to annoy people? It's kind of fun. It is. So, oh, wait. I'm going back. Oh, so I have to tell you my chipmunk story. Okay, so I was coming home from work, and it was like 5:20 or something, and I'm driving down the road, and of course I'm one of those people that, like, if I find a spider in the house, I carry it outside. I know, but I know I'm weird. But so this chipmunk stopped in the middle of the road, and he just looked at me. Now, usually you don't get the deer in the headlights look from a chipmunk. You know, he's just looking at me, and I'm stopped, and there's 4 cars behind me. And I don't want to honk because I don't want to scare him, but I don't want to kill him, and I don't want to go. So in my car, I'm doing this. Go! That's all I got. So pretty soon, you know, I roll down the window. Again, there's 4 cars behind me. And I do it out the window. So now I'm like, go! And that's all I got. So pretty soon, I opened the door. I put the car in park. Now there's 8 cars behind me. They can't see the chipmunk. It's this big, you know? So they're like, why is crazy woman stopped and waving wildly? Now I'm out of the car, and I'm waving at it. Go, just go, you're gonna die. And he left. But at those 8 cars all the way home, I was like, oh God, I hope they don't like call the police and go, you know, something's wrong with this woman. So that was annoying body language. So other annoying body language. Pointing. Oh yeah, question.
So what do you do with your hands when you stand? Like, what are you supposed to do? I know what you're doing.
Well, what would you like to communicate?
Like when you're just standing, like listening to someone.
Well, usually just keeping them down to your sides is good. I mean, you can fold them if you're more comfortable. You definitely don't want to do this because you're shutting yourself off. You don't really want to do the pocket thing if you're trying to build rapport. I know it's really comfy for guys, but when you hide your hands, it usually means, you know, you're holding something back, or you might have a secret. So really good question. Yeah, you guys just jump in if you have any questions too. So we talked about pointing. I was raised with a woman that pointed at everything, and so my kids were growing up, and I was like, let's go there. Look at that person, you know, let's ride that. And they were like, Mom, no, don't point. So I get it now, I get it. So don't point. Don't rub your fingers together because it's generally the signal or the symbol for money, or you have something icky that you should not have in your fingers. And then there's that finger wagging thing, you know, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Don't finger wag. And I see people finger wag at their kids. I'm like, you know what? When you're old, they're going to finger wag at you. Don't you be, you know, whatever. So I mentioned folded arms. And, you know it's comfortable. I know we do it when we're cold. But it's generally not a good thing if you're trying to build rapport. So if you're with clients or if you're with people you want to impress, you don't really want to do that. So it's like you're feeling threatened. It's like you are blocking yourself off. You don't like something. You don't trust something. If you have your thumbs up, typically it's perceived as you're kind of opening up a little bit. If you have your fist locked, well, that's really aggressive. And then if you have the bicep thing going, you're really kind of trying to protect yourself. You're feeling vulnerable. There's the hand pocket thing. Don't really want to do the hand pocket unless, you know, you're around friends and you don't really care. So hands are hidden when we're nervous. Another thing that women do is purse blocks. So, you know, a lot of us have these big old purses and we put them in front of us, or we will walk up to a table and we'll plop them down right in front of us. I mean, just kind of protecting yourself, not a good thing. Doctors will do the note block. So, and I don't have a visual here, but you know, if you are holding a bunch of books or a notebook or a clipboard, you kind of put it like this, and it's kind of an automatic block for people. So be careful about that. And again, in the nature, or you know, if you want to mess with people when you're eating with them at a dinner table, if you put your drink on the opposite side of where you would normally drink it, that's kind of considered a block, and that does annoy people. Body language with legs. Now, our legs, we have a lot less control over. So if you watch people's legs, it does give you more clues. And it's a really good thing that we have tables in meetings because it kind of blocks some of that. And generally speaking, your feet will point towards where you want to go or who you want to be with. So keep that in mind. Now, crossing legs can be good or bad. So women do this all the time. And if they like people, they will cross and cross. I'm with all my girlfriends and we're gonna all mirror each other now and then we're gonna cross a bunch more. It just happens. We don't know what we're doing, but it just happens. And again, if you have a foot closer to somebody, that's where you want to go. And women will create these little conversational areas if they're with one person and cross their legs towards each other. There's also negative leg positions. So, if you're with somebody and you see, this kind of a thing, the jiggling foot, oh my God, I want to leave. They just want out. I see that in meetings when people get impatient. Or the open legs, also known as the man spread, tends to be a dominant thing, but can also be kind of sloppy, Cross legs, as I said, it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. If you look at these women here, they are not happy with each other. So, she is doing the I'm holding back, that I want to say what I think you are. She's just crossed up. She's like, oh my God, I'm going to protect myself because I just can't stand you. And so you see a lot of that. This position here, where they kind of cross the ankle behind too, very low power position. Now I do that when I'm cold, but I'm not doing it anymore. Here you can see she's crossed off, turned away. She's not happy with this man. He's pointing with his thumb. He's got the man spread going a bit. Not a good interaction. And then we have the sloppy man spread there. Now, do you guys want to tell me what these people are saying? Or would you like me to tell you what they're saying? I bet you know. So Hillary and Barack, that was from when they were running against each other. Clearly. Ooh. This guy and this girl, he's into her. He's got the man spread. He's very open. She's like, not so much. Barack, not happy, protecting himself. The thumb is up, so he might be coming around, but his face says, oh, heck no. This guy, the finger wag, she's not going to do anything he wants. I mean, he is finger wagging at her. This guy, he did something bad. That's my theory. He's chopping. I didn't mean to do that. I'm really sorry. It wasn't my fault. And she's like, oh, yes, it was. Oh, yeah. And he's turned towards her. She's got her knees turned away. Here we've got, a little bit of the opening up thing going on. And then just the really kind of angry looking fist closed, arm crossed. So the mouth also tells us a lot. And this is one that you need to kind of be conscious not to do. Don't do the tight-lipped smile or even the tight-lipped anything if you're trying to build rapport. So it's like you're holding back something. Not a good look. And this girl has the, if anyone's looking for a flirty move, here you go. So the smile with the head turned down and the eyes up, there's your flirty move. I had to put one in, right? I don't have one for the guys though. Smiles tell us a lot, and smiles build great rapport, and they really do a fantastic job of helping us in our jobs and with our personal lives. But you can really tell if a smile is genuine by looking at the eyes. And if there's eye wrinkles, it's genuine. If there's not, it's not. So you can tell, good old George, I mean, he has a genuine smile. Of course he does, right? And Brittany, there's no eye wrinkles. So that is not a genuine smile. And typically, they will be a little bit lopsided smiles if they're not genuine. So you want to smile a lot because you will get positive reactions, you'll build rapport, and be more persuasive. So I was on a plane over the weekend, and I didn't experience this, but something close. You're like sardines on a plane. But there's a lot of proximity rules that, most of us know, and they vary by culture too. So here's some examples. If you look at the top one of the guy kind of going like this, that's a very dominant gesture, and people mirror that. So that's a very aggressive thing that men will occasionally do. If you're in an elevator, I encourage you to mess with people. It is fun. It really is fun. So there's these rules in an elevator, and we all know them. The door opens, the first person goes over to the right, and they stand there, okay? The door opens again, the next person goes and stands in this corner. Great, third person comes in, and it's kind of like a happy little triangle. Well, I challenge you to, if you get in an elevator and there's one person in a corner, don't go to the other corner. Go over and stand shoulder to shoulder. And just kind of smile. And if you want to get really creepy, look at them. And they will freak out. They will be off on the next floor, I guarantee it. It's great fun, great fun. So our society has these rules, and intimate space is about 2 fists. So that's kind of your family and your friends and your animals and all of that. Personal space is about a handshake. That's how it's in our culture. Social space, about this far, when you're at a place where you may not know a lot of people. And then public space is kind of what I'm doing. And then there's the space when you're in your car, which is much bigger and more aggressive. So, not always though. I know you guys are nice people. You may have noticed this and you may have not. So I'm going to tell you a secret. You can't tell anybody this. So men and women stand differently, okay? And men stand at a V, okay? So like an open V when they're at a social gathering. Which women, they'll face each other. But if a woman walks up to a man and it's a little challenging. So I was at this is the secret, okay? So I was at this event with the dean. And I just felt like just trying some things out. So he had a really wide V going, really wide V. So I did this. And he went like this. And he did that, and we did this. And pretty soon we were dancing. It was fantastic. But it was just a great example of how that works. Shh. All right, we got to talk about job interviews because this is really important for you guys. So I mentioned Amy Cuddy, who is this Harvard professor that's awesome at body language. She had this theory about, can you fake it until you make it? Can you, by doing certain things with your body, will that give you confidence? And can you just fake it? So she did this study, and what she found was that powerful leaders have very high testosterone and low cortisol, the stress hormone. So she thought, all right, what can I do with that? Can we increase testosterone and lower cortisol with my students to help them fake it until they make it? So what she basically did is have students spit in a cup before and after she had them either high or low power pose. So she'd get a saliva sample, they would do a high power pose, maybe Wonder Woman, something like that for 2 full minutes. Or she had them do the little low power fold up, small kind of thing for 2 minutes. And what she found in all cases is that their testosterone went up and their cortisol went down. So she said, well, how can I actually use this for my students? What could they do with this information? So she did a study on interviews. And she said, all right, I am going to send these students in. I'm going to have half of them high power pose, half of them low power pose before they go into a 5-minute stressful interview. And I'm going to sit this guy in there that has no nonverbals. He's just going to be a blank face, no expression, no gestures, no movements, and people hate that. So she sent them in, half of them high power posing and half of them low power posing. She recorded all the interviews. And then she played them back to these coders and said, all right, the coders didn't know they had high and low powered pose. So she said, who would you hire? And in all cases, again, the coders said, we want to hire these people, and they were the high power posers. So basically, what that said is those people who had their testosterone up and their cortisol down, they were perceived more positively, they were liked more, they were the people that get the jobs. So, before you go on a job interview, don't do it in the lobby, but go in the bathroom and be like, I am awesome, I'm going to get this job. And make sure it's 2 minutes, because it's got to be 2 minutes. So here's the top body language mistakes according to hiring managers. No eye contact, definitely got to have eye contact. Lack of smile, fidgeting too much, bad posture, wimpy handshake, crossing your arms over your chest, playing with your hair, touching your face, and using too many gestures. I mean, I like like gestures, but you don't want to get like all chipmunk about it. So here's your interview tips. Again, I've got this on a sheet for you guys, just so you have it handy if you want it. Carry only one item in, because if you go in, especially women, you know, they might have a purse and a cell phone and an iPad and a coat and a bag, and just take one item in or you appear disorganized when you're interviewing. Sit at an angle. So if you have an option, when you go into a table at an interview, if you don't have to sit across from somebody, sit at an angle so that appears that you're both kind of on the same side. Do your power pose in the bathroom, in the elevator. The cameras in the elevator, they'll really wonder, but that's all right. Claim your space. You know, don't fold up when you're in an interview. Just don't be obnoxious about it, but spread out, be open. Don't touch your face or your hair. Use gestures to strengthen the message, and if you do the open things, that's going to help build rapport, but don't get wild about it. Keep your body open and don't do the lip purse or the closed lip smile. So bottom line is, body language can be your superpower. I know that sounds strange, but it really works well if you pay attention to what you're doing and what other people are doing. Stand strong, gesture effectively, and then watch others. And that's what I have for you tonight. And do you have any questions? And if you do, you can email me or contact me because I love this stuff. So I really appreciate you guys coming tonight. Thank you so much.